Good evening and welcome to live coverage of the RWB International with RRL Audi TTRS Coalition Cup Round 3 from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'm Roblo97 and tonight, I'm delighted to say, I'm joined by FTC Porsche. Good evening.
Hello, how's everybody doing? I'm delighted to be here to watch Indianapolis GP with these Audi GTs. Sorry, I've got a bit of bunged up nose tonight, so yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Don't worry, we've got someone with a bunged up nose and someone who quite literally only about 3 minutes ago just got home after running for about half a mile. So we'll try our best this evening. We've just finished qualifying here at Indianapolis. We're on the GP circuit from what it said on the menu, and we're using the VLN special version of the Audi TT RS, a car which was built to run front-wheel drive only, and actually with none other than Frank Bieler, no less, driving, actually won a VLN round in the wet outright about 10 or so years ago, if I remember correctly. So it's an incredibly capable car, this, especially in the wet, and it even actually had quite a few bits from the GT3 car, if I remember correctly, carried over onto it at the time. Yeah. Of course, this being in the early days of the, relatively early days of the GT3 class, about, if I remember correctly, it was about 11 or 12 years ago. So very, very capable cars here on track today at Indianapolis. We're just coming to the last few seconds of the warm-up right now, and then we'll do a quick rundown through the grid for you for the two races here tonight. We've got a 20-minute sprint race to kick things off, and then a longer 40-minute race following on from that. The 40-minute race, I'd say pit stops are almost a certainty, even in this car, but the shorter race, maybe you can get away without pit stops here at Indianapolis.
Well, last time, I don't think the last time, I'm trying to remember because I was in the commentary box for the Audi TT Cup round Brno. I don't think there was any pit stops in the 40-minute race. If someone wants to go and check that, that'd sure be my guess. Oh, I don't know.
I remember, because I was doing the commentary for last season, the 1995 Deutsche Tourenwagen Meisterschaft with the old 1995 C-Class DTM cars, and they were having to pit roughly halfway through the 40-minute race, and actually for some drivers even 20 minutes might have been a little bit of an eye-opener, especially in the last couple of laps as the tyres started to burn off. Of course, the Audi being front-wheel drive. It's Radek Pavlicek on pole position from Clive Britton, Bogdan in third, Hughes fourth, Git fifth, John D in sixth, British 7th, Rigel 8th, Al 9th, and Cratchit Shill in 10th as we get underway here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway as the field come down towards turn 1 on the road course. It's a bit of squabbling for position in the background, but Pavlicek has got the lead here as they head through turn 1. And Bogdan is up into third place at the moment. So we're currently looking at Martin Hughes in second place. Martin Hughes with a really good start and actually right on the back of Pavlicek there as they come through the infield here. We're using what I want to call the historic Grand Prix layout from when the US Grand Prix was held here at Indianapolis, although of course there have been a couple of changes since then to make it flow better and to eliminate a couple of hairpins which were a bit of an issue for the MotoGP riders when they had the Grand Prix of Indianapolis here. There's a battle further down through the field. We're coming to the battle between Clive Britton and RWB Rigel. Currently looking from Rigel's perspective as Pavlicek and Hughes have pretty much checked out in front of the field here.
Yeah,
come
they've
through
gone.
Yeah, they're both really on it hard here as we currently look at battle for third, fourth and fifth here as they come onto the banking, heading up towards the final corner, which historically for IndyCar and the Indianapolis 500 is, of course, turn one. They come through the banking now. The downforce of the big wing diffuser and splitter combination on TT as Britain is right on the back of Bogdan. He's literally almost in the rear diffuser of Bogdan's car. Not quite going to be able to get it done on the brakes into turn one here at Indianapolis as someone's been given a track limits penalty in the background. Can't quite make out who that was, unfortunately. They come back through the infield now. It's fairly tight right-hander here into what isn't a...
Yeah.
Sorry?
Someone's just dipped a wheel onto the grass. And also, yeah, I think this layout of the track is called Indy GP Classic.
Yes, it is, because it is using about 95% of the layout from when the Formula One used to race here at Indianapolis. I'm looking at battle between RWB Charger and Dirk Gretschel, two very well-known names among the RWB community. As Gretschel gets a slow down penalty for track limits abuse, is Charger going to be able to have a look up the inside? Not quite here. Going to try go around the outside of this corner to maybe get the inside, and he has. He's got the position there, so RWB Charger moves up into 13th place ahead of Dirk Gretschel. He's now got Rich Jones just ahead of him there in 12th place. So that was a good move there from Charger to get up to 13th place as they come through the banking on lap 2 here in this 20-minute race. I'm looking at battle between John D and Mr. Git as they head down into turn 1.
Yeah, there's just straight up action everywhere on this track. I remember doing an 8-hour round here on Forza Motorsport 7. The good old days, let's just say. But yeah, it was a tough track to go around. Especially to 8.
Oh yeah, it was also quite a weird track on the Formula One calendar in a way, as you had some, as I think in the, if I remember correctly, in the early years of the US Grand Prix being held here, you had some teams actually running their Hockenheim and Monza aero kit section, but you also had this phenomenally fast last few corners. This corner here was fairly medium to high speed. This corner here was pretty much flat out, and the banking where Ralf Schumacher had his accident in 2004 was easily flat, and I think there may not have even been safer barrier there back when Schumacher fractured his vertebra in 04. Yeah.
Oh geez. Do you remember that time when there was only 6 cars starting the whole race in 2006 round here? That was an iconic race. And then who crossed the finish line at the same time?
It was 2005, the US Grand Prix, when the 6-car race happened, which is unfortunately burnt into the minds of just about anyone who actually watched it live on TV, and the frankly farcical scenes which followed as the battle has changed somewhat. Mr. Git is now currently up into 5th place. Bogdan has dropped back into 6th, and John D, I think, has had a bit of a coming together with someone, as he's all the way down in 15th place at the moment. So no doubt the stewards will be looking at that one. But yeah, 2002, the staged dead heat between Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello to try and make up for what happened at the A1 ring, as it was still called back then, when Barrichello ceded the position on the final lap to Schumacher to try and supposedly help Schumacher's championship bid, even though he was inevitably going to win the championship regardless, but that's another argument for another day.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
They decided to try staging the finish here at Indianapolis to create the closest finish of all time, as Bogdan and Mad Al are racing incredibly hard here for 7th position. We'll have a look to see.
Sorry to cut you off, but also for the lead as well, Martin Hughes just took the lead. We'll quickly just switch to those. Quick second.
Yeah.
These two are absolutely battling with each other.
Yeah, Martin is a very, very capable driver. So's Pavlicek, and Martin's also a dab hand behind the microphone as well. Actually, as he joined us for the opening round of the DTM series last season. Joined myself and Debug, if I remember, RWB Debug, if I remember correctly, for the opening round of that. So we had a great time on comms. It's also one of the few times I've ever actually researched for a race. Sorry.
No worries. I think there is a midfield battle going on for P11 or P10. Who's that? I think it's British.
It's Graves, Rich Jones, Dirk Gretschel, RWB Charger. There's a massive train here, and almost British Touring Car Championship-esque, where you've got 4 or 5 cars battling for the same piece of tarmac, but at the same time you have someone trying to attack someone, but that in turn leaves you vulnerable to the driver behind. As we currently look here at the gap goes down to absolutely nothing. You can almost see the engine of the Audi TTRS, the big 5-cylinder engine, as there's a position change there as Graves and Jones are still battling away and coming through the infield now. It's still fantastically close racing between them. Come through this fast little kink here into this tight left-hand hairpin. Taken in third, interestingly.
I think the leader's going back at it again as well. I'm just having a look at my dashboard thing.
Yeah, I can see as well. There's only a few temps between them. We'll keep an eye out on that for you as...
But we're going back to this one because this is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Slow down as well.
Yeah, still battling away here. Coming up towards the banking now as RWB Rigel gets a slowdown penalty for track limits abuse. Rigel currently in 4th place, about half a second, if that, ahead of Mr. Git. So that's going to be good news for Mr. Git as Pavlicek takes the lead back as they head presumably into turn 1, and indeed they are heading into turn 1 now as the battle among mid-packers Jones and Graves are swapping positions. Jones now ahead of Graves.
Yeah, it's literally, you can't even say there's a P1 and P2. You just got to say, right, these two are both in P1 because they keep switching it around.
and if anything, this is going to be, if Hughes can hold up Pavlicek, this is going to be great news for Clive Britton in 3rd place. So I've watched Clive racing in the DTM series last season. He's a very, very quick driver as well. So if these two can keep holding each other up, this is actually going to be a real benefit to Clive, as it means that he'll be able to actually close the gap and turn this into a three-way battle for 1st place. It's currently Martin Hughes leaving from Radek Pavlicek. Clive Britton in 3rd place, RWB Rigel in 4th, Mr. Git 5th, British in 6th, Bogdan 7th, Maddow 8th, Crushville in 9th, and Graves in 10th, ahead of RWB Charger, Dirk Gretschel, Rich Jones, Paskin, John D, Minger, and Pike in to round out the field here at Indianapolis, about halfway through the race.
And we just see that our leaders going down into the first corner of the Indianapolis GP Classic Circuit. That's a mouthful. Radek not close enough for the move yet, but he will. And I don't know if this is correct, but Clive Britton has just claimed, I think, about 4 tenths on that lap to the leaders.
Yeah,
so this could be an interesting one. Yeah,
it's like I said, if these two keep holding, about a lap ago actually, if these two keep holding each other up, which they on paper seemingly are, this will be of benefit to Clive Britton, currently in 3rd place, about 1.1 seconds or so behind Radek Pavlicek, and in doing so, would create a three-way battle for the lead, as Gretschel has just lost a position to Minga. That's for 14th place.
One thing. We're just going to have a quick look at the back four. The back fours are almost like NASCAR's. Squabbling over positions.
Except unlike NASCAR, these cars aren't using the IndyCar layout at Indianapolis and in turn trying to obliterate the curbs, but that's a different story entirely. It actually got to the point where when they had to red flag the Cup Series race last year, they Doug Bowles, the president of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, was actually one of the people at the site fixing the curbs. Not that this actually surprises me in the slightest, because Doug Bowles is a very, very much a hands-on leader, and has probably one of, if not the coolest jobs in the world. So we see Ian Paskin and Will Graves. Or is that John D? Can't quite tell, unfortunately. We're looking at Paskin, so this is definitely going to be John D. John D, I think, made a little bit of a mistake there on the way into the opening chicane, and he's right on the back of Paskin for 12th position at the moment. Through now.
The leaders are going back at it again, I believe. These two bumper to bumper. Not like NASCAR's this time.
And as predicted, Clive Britton is just catching them hands over fist, because Martin's
4/10 now.
Yeah. Because Martin is putting up a very, very stout defence. The sort of defence that one, as a Tottenham Hotspur fan, could quite frankly only dream of. Judging by our performance last night against Southampton in the Premier League, but this is allowing Clive to very much close the gap, and Radek pulls out of the draft and Martin Hughes to maybe have a look up the inside into turn one, and Radek gets the position there. Is he going to have the inside for turn two? Not quite. Martin has the inside line for turn two. Radek is going to have the inside line for the next couple of corners, though. He takes the inside there, takes the defensive line. Martin going for the cutback, which he does get, and reclaims the lead. Cracking racing between Martin Hughes and Radek Pavlicek. Very, very clean racing indeed between the pair of them. Pavlicek maybe going a little bit wide there, and that in turn is going to potentially allow Clive Britton into second, which he does. Pavlicek has the inside for this next right-hander, though, but he's not quite able to get the job done. It's going to be a drag race down the back straight here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway between Clive Britton and Radek Pavlicek, as Clive does have the inside line for the next corner and is able to claim second position. So Clive Britton has moved up into second ahead of Radek Pavlicek here at Indianapolis. It means that next up for Clive is Martin Hughes in the race lead here. Of course, this is one of the joys of everybody having the same car, is more a case of how good one is as a driver instead of how one's car is. As they come through the banking now, Pavlicek right in the slipstream in the draft of Clive Britton's identical Audi TT RS Cup car. Pavlicek almost seemingly trying to bump draft Clive Britton to close the gap somewhat up to Martin Hughes. Not quite able to get the job done there as they come through turn one once again. Just under 5 minutes of the race to go. In fact, it's just under 4.5 minutes of the race to go. In fact, as they come through turn three now, heading into turn four. Britton pulling out a little bit of a gap there on Pavlicek as we speak. Closing up towards Martin Hughes as they head into the next big-ish braking area. Not going to be close enough now as Dirk Gretschel gets a slowdown penalty for track limits abuse. Coming up towards back straight. Sorry.
This race is just like so entertaining. I'm literally looking at my screen and there's battles everywhere. It's red. Pavel, sorry if I pronounced names wrong, but Pavel Bogdan in the fight with British, I believe.
Yes, he is. Pavel Bogdan currently in 7th place at the moment as they come through the S's at the back end of the circuit, where the back-to-back hairpins used to be, which were incredibly dull to drive, in all honesty. In fact, I'm quite glad they were removed for the MotoGP. Anyone who's been to or watched a bike race at Mallory Park in England, for example, will know just how deceptively hard a tight hairpin is, as Clive Britton is right on the gearbox of Martin Hughes. It's going to be a case of who can break the latest into turn one. Clive Britton pulls out as they head into turn one now, heading into the braking zone. Not quite going to be close enough, and this in turn is bringing Pavlicek back into this battle for the lead here.
And I think I saw a slowdown penalty for somebody again. There's been tons of penalties around here. What's the problem?
It's quite interesting because in the Grand Prix circuit here in Indianapolis, there's not like the masses of tarmac runoff area like the car park levels you get at some circuits, as Pavlicek now has RWB Rigel right on his gearbox, and also Mr. Git is not far away as well, for that matter, as it's the battle for third place between Radek Pavlicek and RWB Rigel. And Mr. Git you could probably include by default in that, as well, as he's only a few tenths behind Rigel at the moment as they head off the back straight back into the infield here. This series of S's into this slightly tighter corner here. Rigel.
Oh, sorry. There's just under 2 minutes here at Indianapolis. Basically, Radek started first, didn't he? Or who started first? I think it was Radek.
It was Pavlicek,
Yeah. He's dropped 3 positions, as well as not dropped positions, but Martin Hughes has gained a position. I remember he started second. In qualifying, these two were like 2 tenths off each other, so that's quite close, I can't lie.
Clive Britton gets the lead there from... Sorry to cut off you there. Clive Britton has just overtaken Martin Hughes. Big slipstream down the pit straight and managed to get past well before the braking zone, actually, for turn one. It was a massive toe Clive Britton got down the pit straight here in Indianapolis, and Britton goes a little bit wide. Maybe his tyres are cooked. That's bringing Pavlicek into it, and indeed Pavlicek has gone up into second place. So Radek Pavlicek is now up in second place ahead of Clive Britton. RWB Rigel is going around the outside of Hughes right now, and in fact Rigel is going to have the inside line for the next corner here, but Hughes is just about able to hold on, and this in turn is bringing Mr. Git into it as well in the battle for third place. So I'm starting to wonder if Martin Hughes' tyres have actually gone off, which is going to be something to keep an eye on in the second race here. The second race being 40 minutes instead of 20 minutes. They are probably going to have one more lap at this rate, judging by the pace set by the top 5 here. There will be another lap at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as we're currently looking at Radek Pavlicek at the moment coming onto the banking now.
Yeah, what's interesting is the thing is, though, Clive Britton hasn't got the fastest lap of the race, is what I see. It's actually Radek Paul... Sorry, I cannot pronounce the name.
I think it's pronounced Pavlicek.
Pavlicek, yes. Pavlicek's got the fastest lap, I believe, followed by Martin Hughes, just a tenth off of a 1:30.46.
In fact, they only just actually crossed the start-finish line before the clock ran out. So it is going to be a case of holding on now. In fact, Martin Hughes has dropped back massively. His tyres must be absolutely cooked. Of course, the Audi TTRS is actually front-wheel drive, so he's lost positions to RWB Rigel, Mr. Git, Pavel Bogdan as well. And it looks as if that actually British in 7th place might actually be closing in on Hughes to a degree. We're going to have a look now. He's not going to be quite close enough, but depending on the state Hughes' tyres are in, this might actually be a bit of a drag race off the banking here.
Oh, where is Hughes?
Hughes' front tyres are just screaming in utter agony right now, as he has dropped back massively, as Clive Britton is going to win the race here from Radek, Pavlicek, and RWB Rigel. In fact, they come across the line now. Britain weaving to try and break the toe, which indeed he does. There's only a couple of attempts in it between himself and Pavlicek. Rigel in third, Mr. Git in fourth, Pavel Bogdan in fifth. And
what's happened to British?
Britain, he must have had a slowdown penalty or something. Or maybe even actually run out of fuel. BGB British may have actually run out of fuel here. He's almost at, not quite walking pace, I dare say, more like running pace, but it's Bogdan in fifth, Hughes in sixth, Maddow seventh, Kratoshvili in eighth, Charge in ninth, Graves 10th. Pavlicek has the fastest lap of the race by about 0.4 of a second. John D 11th, Priskin 12th, Jones 13th, Gretschel 14th, Pike 15th. British has actually dropped down to 16th place, so he must have clearly run out of fuel there, which is why he pulled over to the inside, well off the racing line at the end. And Minga is recorded, unfortunately, as a DNF, sadly, in 17th place. But, well, if that was the drama we got in a 20-minute race without pit stops, then who knows what is going to happen in in the second race here this evening at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Whew.
It's definitely an interesting one, I can't lie. But yeah, folks, that's the 20-minute race over. Are we taking a break before the next one?
I think we've got to load up the
change servers. Yeah,
race here, as everybody will give everyone a few minutes to jump over and for me to completely ignore all of the notes I've made, because I didn't realise we were using the old VLN spec Audi TT. Well, I thought we were using the 2016 TT Cup car. I mean, either way, they're still front-wheel drive, but this VLN car built to a far more liberal set of technical regulations, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, well, one thing I may say, I want to say thank you, though, to Nate Newcomer for setting up all the stream. He had to literally run back home to just start the stream up from work. I just want to say thank you to him.
Massively, yeah. Nate, without Nate, we would be, we wouldn't be able to talk over the pictures. We'd be pretty much talking over a completely blank screen, and Nate does an absolutely fantastic job with hosting the live streams and also teaching some of us how to actually set up a stream from scratch, which I have done as well. So Nate, if you're listening, mate, cheers from all of us. It is much appreciated.
I'm pretty sure he's listening, just setting up the server now. Changing it to the second race of Indianapolis. But interesting starts and stuff. Right, so we've seen race 1. Race 2, who's going to come out top?
I don't know. It's going to be incredible. I think it's still going to be the usual suspects at the front of the field. So Martin Hughes, Clive Britton, Radek Pavlicek. So I think they're all going to be right up there at the sharp end. So it's going to be interesting to see who is able to make the tyres last the longest and therefore maybe pit a wee bit later.
I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think Indianapolis is a bit of a tyre killer.
Yeah, it's the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is almost kind of, as I was saying earlier, when the F1 first visited here, it's almost a circuit of two halves in a way. Something which, excuse me, so anyone who watched the 8 Hours last year will know that that's kind of changed somewhat, as they were using the full infield and they weren't using the banking at the final corner. So you had the chance to maybe run a slightly different setup, but when F1 was racing here, especially back in the early 2000s, it was a lot different. It was, you almost had to make a fairly major compromise between, okay, do I go for outright top end speed through the speed trap at the end of the pit straight on the run into turn 1, or do I go for a setup that's going to be much quicker through the infield? It's like you used to Spa back in the day. You used to see that you could tell who had a higher downforce setup because they were setting green and purple times in Sector 2, especially back around 2005. Whereas those who were running a lower downforce setup were traditionally quicker in Sector 1 and Sector 3. And it was almost much the same at the old Hockenheimring in a way, in that you almost had to make a choice between, do you go for outright straight line speed, or do you maybe add another degree or two of wing and go a bit quicker through the motordrom at the end of the lap? And traditionally you would add a couple of degrees more wing compared to Monza, for example, even though you were running almost an identical level of aero. Is something I learned from reading Martin Brundle's book, Working the Wheel. It's a very insightful book into just what it's like being a Formula One and sports car racer and racing on some of, if not arguably, the greatest circuits in the world. In fact, Brundle actually on one occasion at Monza ended up finishing first and second in the same race for Jaguar back in the World Sports Car Championship.
How did he manage to do that?
He started the race in one car, handed over to his teammate, and then did the second half of the race in the other car.
Oh, geez. That's an interesting one. I don't think...
I think Bernd Schneider actually did the same one. I remember John Hindhoff telling me that I think it was Bernd Schneider did the same in a race, and I said, oh yeah, Martin Brundle did that in the Monza round of the World Sports Car Championship one year.
Yeah, I've never seen that before. I know RWB wouldn't let us do that if we're doing it at the 9 Hours of Spa on ACC next weekend.
Going to be that's going to be a good one. I'm going to be in the box for the entire 9 hours.
Oh jeez, that's how I'm away partying that weekend. But I'll be checking up on the stream, so definitely. We're just on the grid now, taking it over. I'm gonna have a look at everybody on the grid. So, wait, is this the grid for the race, or
this is the grid for the second race tonight in the Audi TTRS Coalition Cup Round 3 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway? It is it's actually a reverse grid here, so it's Minga, British, Pike, Gretchel, Jones, Paskin, excuse me, John D, Graves, Charger, Crutchville, Hughes, Bogdan, Git, Rigel, Pavlicek and Britton as they head off the start-finish line now. A long drag race here into turn 1 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Tight right-hander. It's Minga who holds on to the lead, taking a very defensive line into turn 1 ahead of everyone else. Pike goes up briefly into second place, just drops back into third place. Dirk Gretschler, in fact, actually moves up into third place. Pike now down into fourth place as the whole field is moving. Pavlicek's had an absolutely cracking start up into 12th place. I've noticed, in fact, he's just lost a place to Bogdan. They come through the remainder of the infield now.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just going to have to quickly restart. The cameras seem to be just having a little technical difficulty, so I'll be right back with you.
It's fine, no worries.
Should still have this stream up. Someone gets a slowdown penalty as I switch screens. It's
Ian Paskin, excuse me, who has just actually dropped down into 9th place behind RWB Rigel. I'll
we should be back
on
now.
Comms here. Still Minga and British battling away here for the lead of the race in this 40-minute reverse grid race. In fact, British trying to go around the outside here. We're looking at BGB British right now. It's a drag race through the banking on the final corner here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Minga, on the inside line, just about able to hold on for now as Mazal has joined us in commentary.
I'm back.
And
yes, unfortunately, it kicked me out at the end of the first race, and I haven't been able to get back in. So, there you go.
Oh, sorry to hear that, mate.
Call that a technical failure, whatever.
Will do.
Watch out for that. Well, how was it?
Tight here. Sorry.
Let's have a look. Sorry, I'm just getting my screen set up again.
No
after
worries.
that difficulty. Right here. Who are we gonna have a look at? Or are we gonna say this battle? This one.
Take your pick. Take your pick. Quite frankly, it's still a colossal battle going on here at Indianapolis, as we see reverse grid race. In fact, Pavlicek's down into last place, some 20-something seconds behind John D. So I think he's had a bit of may have been forced off the track somewhere on the opening lap, which is not the kind of driving error you'd expect from Radek Pavlicek. So no doubt we might even see him try an alternative strategy here in this race, maybe potentially going for a pitting earlier, maybe going for a harder compounded tyre in order to try and actually outlast everyone. As we see someone going very wide there at the banking, almost right in the wall there is Giorgio Minga in the lead of the race, as Gretschel and British are battling away. Gretschel, I think he's on the inside line there and is able to take the lead on the brakes take second place, excuse me. No, he's not. He's down into third place still. So BGB British is still in second place ahead of Dirk Gretschel. Martin Hughes has made very good progress actually through the field to go up into fourth place. Yeah, got Mr. Git and sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Crattersville gets a slowdown as well.
Yeah.
Track limits.
I'm guessing this corner here is actually probably the easiest, I'd say, to get done for track limits at, because it's about the only place on the circuit where you've got actual tarmac on the exit of the corner. Everywhere else it's just grass. So I think that's where we're seeing the vast majority of the slowdown penalties for track limits, as Martin Hughes, in fact, actually just gets a slowdown penalty for track limits as well. You see BGB British and Giorgio Minga here heading onto the historic oval, now heading through IndyCar and NASCAR turn 1. As British is in the slipstream. Minga is, by going to the inside, what he's trying to do. He's trying to break the toe by heading off the racing line, and in turn forcing British to do what he's trying to do here and go around the outside into turn 1. In fact, it's quite interesting that BGB British is taking turn 1 in third gear and Minga is taking it in second. I mean, well, Mad Al, you were taking part in the race earlier on. It's kind of, what kind of gear do you think were you using for the first couple of corners, mate?
I can't remember, to tell you the truth. I just go up and down the gearbox until it sounds about right.
No worries.
It depends whether or not you're also trying to save fuel as to which gear you're likely to be using, because you probably won't make it on a tank full around here, because obviously because of the very long fast straight and the long drag onto the straight, you are going to be using quite a lot of fuel, and I don't think anybody's going to make it unless they've done a really, I think you're going to have to get down to about 3.7 litres per lap or less to even get close to making it. So 3.8 is quite difficult to get down to on a regular basis, so less than that. I suspect everybody will pit. If anybody doesn't pit, I think they've done an absolutely brilliant job.
It's very interesting, actually. I wonder if that might be something Pavlicek's thinking about, if he can maybe save himself 20, 30, 40 seconds by simply fuel saving and trying to conserve the tyres. Although, given the tyre drop off at the end of we saw from Martin Hughes at the end of 20 minutes around here, I have my doubts, quite frankly, as we see someone's already actually in the pits as well. The lead changing between British and Rigel. And in fact, it might be British who's in the pits, as Rigel is now in the lead of the race ahead of Dirk Gretschel, Mr. Git, Graves and Hughes. Minga has just passed him, Bogdan, Charger as well, Britton, Paskin. So I think that is indeed BGB British who has come into the pits very early on, I should add. Still 32 minutes of race here to go. So whether he is attempting the early pit stop brim the tank and try and fuel safe to the end approach? I do not know, but it's going to be interesting to see what BGB British does actually do from here on in. I'll be back in 1 second.
No worries, I'll carry on. Well, let's have a look at our 2, 3, 4 front leaders, let's just say. All batting it out for the crown of Indianapolis. Sadly, not racing for the Indy 500. But just having a look here as they go through the oval section, you see everybody just behind. It's like a massive train. Oh jeez. Down in turn 1 we see Mr. Git trying to get that, but backs out now in that grey and fluorescent yellow car. It's quite interesting this week, and Gretschel is just leading the second position spot by a little bit, but has Mr. Git following behind, as we're just going to quickly choose to Martin Hughes, who is, I believe, in a tight battle with, is that Bogdan or is it Walt Graves, I believe. Just gonna watch this for a few seconds as these two are having a battle just further ahead. This pack of 5 seems to be decently close. I think British has just disconnected out of the race. Not entirely sure, but we're going to have a slowdown for somebody. Martin Hughes, track limit use. So I'm going to take you through your grid 30 minutes into the race. P1 we have RWV Rigel, followed by P2 Dirk Gretschel, followed by Mr. Git, Walt Graves, Martin Hughes, rounding off your top 5. P6 is Pavel Bogdan, P7 is Giorgio Minger, followed by P8 Clive Britton, who was our race winner for the last one. Really closely followed by, we're just going to quickly watch this battle as they head down into turn 1. Charger behind, looking for the opportunity. We'll see, is this Clive Britton going around the outside in the black and orange car? Quite interesting, but we're going to quickly go back to our thing as well. Ian Paskin has just passed for 9th position on Charger, I believe. We're going to quickly go back to this. So P8 is Giorgio Minger, P9 is Ian Paskin, followed by RWB Charger, rounding off your top 10. In the double-digit numbers, have Andrej Kashashvili, followed by Rich Jones, Ryan Pike at P13, and then your pole sitter for race 1, which seems like ages ago now, Polzek. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. P15 is John D, and I think British is back in the race, but 40 seconds behind, going around the banking. I want to quickly go back to the battle for P11, which sees Rich Jones and Ryan Pike just trying to get onto the bumper. As who goes wide? Someone's just gone tremendously wide.
I think that might have been Jones. Sorry, yeah, that was.
Welcome back.
No worries. Cheers. It was. Unfortunately, we were talking about fuel mileage earlier on. Unfortunately, may have brimmed the old tank a bit there, but oh well, it happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, Rich Jones did appear to go incredibly wide onto the banking there. Whether it was just push from he was getting understeer from being in the slipstream, because the Audi was a relative hard down because we see Martin Hughes side by side with Mr. Git as they come through the infield. No, sorry, it's that.
No, it
Graves.
Yeah, so your top 3 are Rigel, Gretschel, and Git. That sounds like a bad word, but you know, right. Anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, top 3 are Rigel, Gretschel, and Mr. Git. And then P4
Hughes and
5.
Graves.
Yeah, Hughes is like dropped back now. He's roughly around 2 seconds behind. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, we're gonna just switch to Charger, because Charger is in this four-way battle for P7, I believe. Our pole sitter for this race, Giorgio Minga, leading that pack.
Yep. From Ian Paskin, RWB Charger, and Clive Britton, who is fairly desperate to try and actually make up some ground. We've got another driver in the pits in the background. That is indeed, I think that might be Bogdan. Yes, it is Pavel Bogdan in the pits here at Indianapolis, as you see Paskin and Minga battling away into turn one. Minga just about able to hold on there from Ian Paskin as they head through the first few corners here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, the pit lane at Indy, because of where they had to build the pit garages for the Formula One, meant that it actually had the fastest pit lane speed limit on the entire calendar.
Oh yeah, I mean,
because of how wide it was.
Yeah, when we were doing the 8 hour, I didn't know where to enter it from. I thought what it was when you're on the oval, you're just coming off the oval, that corner. I thought you had to quickly dive into the pits, but I'm not entirely sure now.
But side by side, sorry, it's still side by side between Minga and Paskin, and this is bringing Charger back into it as well. Through the S's coming at the end of the back straight. In fact, Charger is actually alongside Paskin. In fact, Charger looks as if he might. In fact, he has actually got the position there. So RWB Charger is now up in 7th place ahead of Paskin, although Britain is side by side with them. Minga has actually dropped back into the pits. So this has let these three drop the hammer big time here. Arguably, as Clive Britton is trying to slipstream his way past RWB Charger. It's well known among RWB members that getting up to the back of RWB Charger is one thing, getting past is quite another, and Clive Britton has just done that on the brakes, into turn one. Paskin looks as if he's actually dropped back by a few tenths of a second or so here.
Indeed. He's just got a little bit wide round there.
I think the tyres are gone.
Yeah, with 25 minutes left of this race, he might actually. Oh, yeah, a little bit of
tyres are clearly gone on Paskin's car. You can see the way the car's just moving as it turns in. It's just not quite giving him what he wants as a driver. It's not quite reacting the way he wants. So I think the tyres are indeed gone on Paskin's car, and this is bringing Jones and Krashishvili back into the mix here, and also to a degree Pike as well, because Krashishvili's got his hands full a little bit there in the background. So looking at Andrei Krashishvili now, he comes onto the banking. Jones taking a very high line on the way into the banking here as battle rages on between Gretschel and Rigel. Rigel just getting the lead there, going up the inside into turn two. In turn, this means that, well, Gretschel's actually got the inside for the next couple of corners, so he's going to try and outbrake Rigel. Rigel's going to try his best to hold on. And Mr. Git is just waiting there in the wings in case this suddenly comes to blows, which it doesn't. It's incredibly clean racing so far between RWB Rigel and Dirk Gretschel. Rigel just about able to hold on. Gretschel not quite close enough to get up the inside. Excuse me, so onto the back straight, and in turn this means now Mr. Git is right on the back of Dirk Gretschel's car. You can see just the sheer amount of aero on this thing. No wonder why it was so utterly ruthlessly effective in the VLN on the Nürburgring Nordschleife.
It does look quite grippy. You see how it goes around the corners and it just sticks. It's
got absolutely, because it was built for a class which didn't have quite the same regulations, shall we say, as maybe a GT3 car. Actually, the cornering speeds on these Audi TTRSs was, if I remember correctly, actually as high, if not maybe even slightly higher than the GT3 cars back in the day, and arguably where Audi may have actually been potentially testing a few ideas as we see the Gretschel and Rigel very close as they head into turn 1, 2. But the current gen Audi R8 had very similar arrangements at the in terms of the little vents there at the back of the car in the rear fender. And it does make you wonder if the TT was actually maybe used as a little bit of a rolling laboratory for Audi.
Wow.
Is why it actually had a few bits of the off the original R8 LMS GT3 car actually bolted to it, which did make for one hell of an exotic Audi TT.
It does look like a little bit like a Pikes Peak car, almost. I'm not a fielder expert in the Pikes Peak world, but I know they do have a lot of body kits on them. Well, not body kits, but massive fenders and stuff to help the airflow. Which
you do, well, in all honesty, you do actually really need when you're that high above sea level.
Yeah.
Of course. With it being in Colorado as well, it's a different sort of high to the other sort of high in Colorado, if you know what I mean. Given that Colorado is actually one of the, if I remember correctly, it was one of the first states to legalize marijuana. In America's Gretschel is right in the slipstream of Rigel. He pulls out hard on the brakes now into turn 1. Dirk Gretschel gets the lead as they head through turn 1. RWB Rigel is on the inside for turn 2, though. Gets the position back. This is bringing Mr. Git into it. Is Dirk going to be able to have a look up the inside into turn 4? Not quite. And he's going to have to defend now a little bit from Mr. Git. In 3rd place, Dirk taking a tighter line there into this left-handed hairpin.
As Ryan Pike has just gone to the pits, as we see. So, Porsche Jack. Oof. I don't know. Do you reckon he'll try and do just a full race without pitting? Or do you reckon he'll just have to pit at some time?
As far as I'm concerned, after what happened on lap 1 for Radek Pavlicek, it's damage limitation at this point. So you almost have to try just almost the riskiest kind of strategy you can at this stage to try and actually get something from it. And it has worked in the past. I mean, we saw at Le Mans in 2014, the Jota LMP2 car going 2 laps down to the class leader, and then they basically went for the riskiest strategy they could, which was essentially YOLO, and just do qualifying laps for the next 20-odd hours. And in their case, it paid off. They won the class that year with Simon Dolan, Ollie Turvey, and Harry Tinknell, as Gretschel has a big send up the inside and manages to get it done this time. He's on the inside for the next couple of corners here. We're going to ride with Dirk Gretschel still as they head through turn 3. On the brakes now into turn 4. Trail braking the car through. Rigel round on the outside there. Coming through turn 5 into turn 6 now. Rigel back into the lead of the race. It makes me wonder if Rigel's maybe running a little bit more wing than what Dirk Gretschel is.
Well, we can see on the
far.
We can see on top speed on the straight.
It's all fixed up, so there's no difference at all between the cars.
Oh, thanks for that. I was actually completely unaware.
You are stuck with what you're given, and the only thing you can adjust is brake pressure, brake bias, and that's it. Fuel, obviously. Everything else fixed. You can't change anything. So there's only one set of tyres as well, so it's hard tyres. So you will find your left front gets a tad toasty with the amount of right-handers there are, but they last quite well, and they don't drop off particularly well.
Do you get to change your tyre pressures, or is it just?
No.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
That's it.
That's
yes, you could change brake pressure, brake balance, and fuel usage, and that's it, or amount of fuel. And then you just have to manage what you get.
Yeah, I reckon Porsche is going for a very low fuel strategy. As he's just past Rich Jones.
Yeah, or he's just going for trying to do more of a, dare I say, almost more of a Formula E style of driving in terms of the amount of lift and coast you're having to do. Because of course, in Formula E, which I know incredibly well, for better or for worse, you can probably argue that amongst yourselves in the comments. Having covered it for a while as a journalist, you get a little beep in your ear telling you when you need to coast. So we see Charger just getting past John D there on the brakes into turn 1 for 10th. Although John D gets the position back at turn 2. Charger going to have a go up the inside into 3. On the brakes into turn 4. John D still just about ahead. I think we'll wait till we get to the back straight before continuing this one.
These two have been side by side, literally throughout the whole way around the track so far. Back straight now. Like you said before, it is going to be a drag race, the famous line.
Yep.
John D might have the better exit, just getting in the draft as well, but could be going down. No, not going from the move there. Charger on the
back straight isn't really long enough to do too much unless you get a really, really much better exit. It's not even a good braking zone at the end of it because it's not a hugely tight corner into there, so you can actually drag the brakes through the corner quite well. So it's quite difficult to actually outbrake somebody as well.
I think that's also why when they brought IndyCar onto the road course, they actually changed the layout of the road course to try and actually make it more of a braking zone into there as well. I think that's actually
they've tightened up the initial left, and then they've opened up the second left, which actually gives a better flow.
Yeah, it's people in the pit. Yeah. I think this is the 16-minute mark. I think everybody's going for the just past halfway strategy, so then they can really burn their tyres on this last 16 minutes of the race.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if anyone has actually decided to just fuel save, because as I was saying with the Formula E, you get the little beep in your ear telling you when you need to start lifting and coasting before hitting the brakes for a corner. I remember reading or hearing something when Audi first brought the R10 TDI to Sebring for testing back in 2006, believe it or not. The engineers were just hearing the sound of the car bouncing over the concrete on the pit straight, and they were thinking, wait, is something wrong with the car? What, it's going to brake in a minute. Oh no, it's going to brake. But they didn't actually realise just how quiet it was. And also that it was the drivers at the time said it was actually really quite disconcerting as well. Yeah. With just how little engine noise they had, because when you're in a big loud petrol engined car like this, for example, you can tell what speed you're supposed to be doing because you can tell by the pitch of the engine what revs you're at. Whereas with the diesel engine being a lot quieter, that suddenly became a lot harder, if not nigh on impossible. So yeah, it does add to the challenge a bit for the drivers. Whether we get any electric single seaters in race room remains to be seen, although I for one would find that actually quite interesting to see who can adapt the best.
Yeah, as we see these two go down to turn 1. Pavel Bogdan does the dive bomb. Well, not much of a dive bomb. Who's that just going wide?
It was Jones in the background. That's got to be John D, maybe? No, it's not, because Bogdan is still in, Jones being in 9th place. So my best guess is that it's not Rich, but I think it's one of the drivers behind Rich. Granted, it doesn't really narrow it down terribly much, but I think it might just be someone coming out of the pits on cold tyres and maybe hitting the brakes and thinking, oh no, I've got grip. No, I've got no grip. Heading into not as much as I thought. Heading through the first chicane there. This is, admittedly, it's quite easy to do when you're in a racing car. You're coming out the pits on cold tyres. You might still just be in the mindset of, okay, yeah, I need to brake at this point and I can turn in at this point, but you do also in a way have to adjust your driving style somewhat to actually counteract the fact that the tyres aren't quite up to temperature as much as they normally would be.
Yeah, Well, right now I'm just looking at the Dirk Gretschel battle, and it's interesting because he's 8 tenths off the leader RWE Rigel after 18 laps, soon to be 19. Just over 12 and a half minutes left of this 40-minute race. What are your thoughts on this? Who do you reckon's going to win?
Who knows? Who knows? I'm not making any predictions. Yep, you can tell that I may or may not have studied sports journalism at university, given that I am totally impartial.
Well, I'm looking at, I'm keeping my eye on Paul, how do you pronounce it again?
Pavlicek.
Pavlicek. So I'm sorry, so sorry to everybody that's watching.
I mean, to be fair, I'm sorry to Radek in case I've mispronounced his name, but...
Pavlicek. But I'm keeping my eye on him because he's just in P7, as we see him 5 tenths less now, about 4 tenths. Just on his way to claim that 6th, probably, as we see our last race winner just dropping back a little bit. Who's that slowdown, if you can see?
It's...
Crasherville.
Yeah. Crasherville, yeah. Just about. See on my end as he gets another slowdown penalty as well, just to almost add insult to injury. Almost. Yeah. This battle for 6th place enters the back straight.
We're just gonna quickly look at Dirk Gretschel. Sorry for the quick maneuver, but these two are going for the race lead. Radek casually as well, going for 6th, as I can see on my mini thing. Don't know what to call it really, but yeah, casually going for that position.
Yep, heading down the pit straight now towards turn 1. RWB Rigel, Dirk Gretschel is about for the lead here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Missed to get in 3rd place from Martin Hughes. I'm looking at Dirk Gretschel in his car at the moment, still holding on to the coattails of RWB Rigel. It's been a phenomenal drive from the pair of them, actually, so far in this race. Definitely giving the likes of Radek, Clive, Martin something to... Well, if they want to, if the likes of Radek, Clive and Martin really want to get on the podium, they are going to have to put the hammer down somewhat to try and close the gap a bit here. See, Clive Britton still just behind Radek Pavlicek at the moment, coming onto the back straight now, as Pavlicek still holding on to 6th place at the moment. Hard on the brakes. This medium speed left, right, left chicane. And on a much higher speed note, Dirk Gretschel is heading through the banking with Mr. Git right behind him. I think Rigel's actually come into the pits, perhaps. And indeed, yes, he has, as Martin Hughes goes up into 3rd place, Graves into 4th. This battle between Pavlicek and Britton is going to soon become the battle for 5th and 6th, which indeed it does, as Martin Hughes in 3rd place is really pushing on now. Been a phenomenal bit of tyre and fuel management so far from Dirk to still be in the lead over half an hour into the race. So fair play to him and hats off to him as well. As this battle between Clive and Radek comes through the infield. Now we're looking at RWB Charger and Ryan Pike. Pike currently a few tenths off, about 1 and a bit seconds, off of Charger. Charger being a bit behind BGB British at the moment. No doubt that will all that could change. Coming onto the banking now, onto the famed speedway here at Indianapolis, nicknamed the Brickyard for the yard of bricks, excuse me, at the start-finish line. Of course, the whole circuit used to be brick paved before they tarmacked it, and you can actually see over the years the different layers of tarmac that have been applied to the surface here at the speedway, and just how much progressively thinner it has got over the years, and yet seemingly the amount of grip has actually gone up. And it's a credit to the company who do the tarmacking here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as RWB Charger is only just under a second ahead of Pike at the moment, this being in the battle for 13th place.
One thing, can we, on the last lap, review the race leader in honour of Panda, because I know Panda's just been diagnosed with, well, not diagnosed, that sounds bad, but just been told he has COVID-19, so wishing him a strong recovery.
Yeah, sorry to hear, mate, and hope you have a speedy recovery, pal. Another one of our commentators here at RWB International, and also had the pleasure of co-commentating the vast majority of the Kyle Army 9 hours at the end of last year with him. It was an immense honour and a privilege, and also gave me a lesson in how to speak Afrikaans as well, so I could actually pronounce some of the corner names at Kyle Army for good measure.
Well, right now I'm looking at the leaderboard, and it seems that Ryan Pike is the man to watch right now. When did he go into the pits is a question.
I don't know, to be honest. I'm keeping a look up at the top of the leaderboard. Pavlicek is actually now up into 5th place, which, given that at the end of the opening lap he was about 20 seconds behind the driver ahead of him in plumb last, it's been some comeback drive from the Polish driver Radek Pavlicek to make his way back up into the top 5. We said it was going to be a bit of a damage limitation drive from him, and my word, he has done a fantastic job of pulling that off so far.
Well, yeah, I was going to mention Pavlicek. He seems to be doing really well. Yeah, to be honest, the battles today have been really exciting. The one thing that's been really ironic, well, not ironic, but similar to Brno and Indianapolis when I watched last time, was the first few corners. So you can get on the first few corners of Brno, if you stay on the outside but you still hold it out there, eventually you can make the run back through. It's similar to this track as well, it seems like.
Yeah, and of course Brno back in the day was not actually the permanent circuit it is now. It was the permanent circuit was actually only built in the mid to late 1980s, still when it was during the communist era in Czechoslovakia, as they needed to build a new permanent circuit for the World Championship motorcycle racing, the 500cc Grand Prix World Championship. And before that, up until about 1985, they still actually raced on a street circuit in Brno itself. And to this day, the pit buildings, it's almost like Rheims in France. The pit buildings actually are still there at the side of the road to this day in Brno. It's absolutely incredible to look at on Google Street View. And one of my friends was there at the on vacation last year, and I said to him, "Oh, if you get the chance to go to Brno, head to the outskirts of the city and visit the old pits there, because you can actually see the old pits from the European Touring Car Championship and MotoGP days, as Mr. Git has come into the pits as well. Clive Britton up into 4th place. Now there's Mr. Git just getting fuel and tyres. And I think Pavlicek's also dropped down a few positions as well, so I'm wondering if he's in the pits. Indeed he is. He's jumped Mr. Git in the pits. Quick stop there from Radek Pavlicek and his pit crew. I say pit crew, digital pit crew, yes I know, but either way the point still stands as Pavlicek heads out on track now, and they've got John D actually slotting in right behind him. Of course, John D does have the advantage of having tyres that are at least up to temperature, and it gets worse for Mr. Git. He's been given a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane with about 100 or so seconds remaining. He's going to have to come in, I'd imagine, at the end of this lap, lest he do a Michael Schumacher at Silverstone in 1998, which I'm too young to remember, given I was only a year old. You're probably... Yeah, I was going to say.
I remember it on the TV. Don't worry, I wasn't there. Like, I probably wouldn't have happened since I was born. When was that?
1998, so I was about a year old at the time.
I wasn't even born. I was born, 2006. So yeah, that was a lot of years ago.
Okay, thanks for making me feel old.
No.
I won't mention the fact I went to Silverstone in 1979 and watched the famous Barry Sheen, Kenny Roberts race there.
I think Mr. Git has actually stayed out with 42 seconds remaining. Maybe he hasn't actually seen the fact he has a drive-through penalty looming over him. So
wait, is he doing a Schumacher moment? We could actually see a Schumacher moment, fellas.
He might be. If not, he is going to get one draconian post-race time penalty, I would imagine.
Well, one thing as well is, Gretschel might just be able to do a last lap. No, I doubt it. But he's.
I'm looking at what's left on the clock.
And that's not.
He might.
Yeah.
He might actually be able to just get away without actually doing another lap here. In fact, we're going to wait and see. But if so, Dirk Gretschel, in fact, he has timed it to perfection and won the 40-minute race here in the Audi TTRS Coalition Cup. Martin Hughes is in 2nd place. Walt Graves is going to come home in 3rd ahead of Clive Britton. RWB Rajah is going to come home in 5th place, about 11 seconds ahead of Radek Pavlicek with a fantastic comeback drive through the field.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, Radek was actually in last place at one point. He's got John D right behind him. Remains to be seen what Mr. Git does next. He's going to stay out and actually cop the post-race time penalty. Is Mr. Git in 8th place. Bogdan is in 9th place, and Rich Jones is going to round out the top 10 ahead of Ian Paskin, BGB British, RWB Charger, Pike, Claudio Minga, and Andre Krachashvili. In fact, Ryan Pike has actually come into the pits. Believe it or not, maybe he's actually run out of fuel.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he has run out of fuel. In fact, Pike is showing he's being a lap down. And then so's Minga and Krachashvili, and Pavlicek also holds the fastest lap of the race as well. Given the amount of clean air Pavlicek had during that race, and in fact, Mr. Git has been demoted to 12th place with a 90-second time penalty for not taking his drive-through.
Yeah,
meaning that he's on the lead lap and 2 minutes and 14 seconds behind Dirk Gretschel.
Evening, mate. Hello.
as another fantastic evening's racing here
Yeah,
at Indianapolis Motor Speedway with some cars that really did actually suit the circuit absolutely perfectly.
Yeah. Well, that was a great race. I don't know. I'm so confused on how everything happened because we had who even started that race? Who on pole? I forgot
It
who
was
started.
Claudio Minga who started the 40-minute
Yeah.
race on pole, as it was a reverse grid race. So
Yeah.
the
And then-
grid positions from qualifying were inverted.
Yeah. So, right. Here's a little game before we end off tonight. Describe that race in 3 words.
Entertaining, amazing, strategic.
I have to agree on those. Oof. Yeah, strategy is a big one around here for some reason. Well, it's Indy. But yeah, we're doing any interviews tonight,
I don't think so, no.
unless some people wanted to. But I doubt so. But yeah. But anyways, are we ending off tonight?
Yep, I'm going to quickly just mention, sorry, that coming up on RWB International, we've got the in fact, the final round of the Clash of the Warriors series coming up on Saturday evening. Going to be well worth tuning into. And we've got the Spa 9 hours big grid race coming up next Saturday after that, which is going to be fantastic fun. It will be, for the most part, I think myself and Red Sky on commentary duties. We're getting the bands back together after the Bathurst 12 hours last year. And coming up next week on the 17th, we've got the final round of the Audi TT RS Coalition Cup from Zandvoort in the Netherlands. That's also going to be well worth tuning into. My thanks to Nate Newcomer for hosting the stream tonight, to Mad Al and to FTC Porsche joining me, Rob Lomas, here in the commentary box. And as always, it's bye for now.
Bye.
Goodbye.